What is going on? It's Alex coming back at you with another video, and today we're going to be doing a mock the mock and review of Eric Edholm's first 2025 NFL mock draft. We had Bucky Brooks, we had DJ, and Eric is going to be the third. I think they also have someone named Chad Reuter who ends up doing the fourth. So this is going to be a big one. Obviously, NFL.com, this is the site, so we might as well be able to check them out when they do. It's also my first video with me being back from Mobile, Alabama at the Senior Bowl. It was fantastic. If you guys want me to do a quick little graphics video about that, about the biggest winners and losers, feel free to do so. But I did end up talking about like guys who I thought were risers and a faller on both Broshmo as well as that franchise guys channel. So shout out to both those guys. Incredible human beings, incredible individuals, actual genuine friends, which is, it makes all the work of this worth it, not to mention the way that I get to interact with you guys. So super excited for that. And we had a great time there. I got to see quite a few of you guys as well. And it was awesome that you guys came up and said hello. So feel free to mention your name down in the comment section below. Let's get into this. Let's have a great time. Starting out with the number 1 overall selection. We got Abdul Carter going to the Tennessee Titans. It is very, very possible that Abdul gets into this selection. If you're looking at a pass rusher, Abdul is probably the number 1 player in the class. I grade my edge position looking a little bit heavier weighted into the run game to look at a holistic view. But, if you're looking for a pass rusher, there is none that is better than Abdul Carter. And so, going to give him a shout out whenever I get the chance to be able to do that. Braden Swinson very well might be slipping. There's something that's going on right now behind the scenes that is a little bit worrisome, and that is him dropping out of the Shrine Bowl. There's no news out on it. I don't know if it's a bunch of medical issues or, there's something that's going on there. So TBD on that, but, my type of guy who I love to death and will go to bat for is certainly somebody that I have a big red flag for at the moment by him dropping out without there being very much publicity on it. But at number 2, the Cleveland Browns go Travis Hunter and pass on Cam Ward, as well as Shedeur Sanders. If you are a Shedeur QB1 guy, technically I am, but at the same time, I'm not the biggest QB guy in this class. Going BPA is not the worst strategy on planet Earth. If you have job security and you don't believe in these quarterbacks, getting a quarterback that you're going to have to replace in a couple years is not going to get you any further. If not, it's actually going to get you less far than going after a player you truly think should be on the team in 5, 10, or even 15 years. Giants then go Cam Ward at 3. Going to respect it, going to appreciate it. Cam Ward's a great talent. I don't, I have my concerns with Cam Ward. His boneheaded mistakes, people can, they can gloss over them. Obviously, he's been better year over year, and I do love seeing that trend. But when you look at the Virginia Tech game, the Cal game, like those are the 2 games that stand out the most as him truly not being able to control himself in terms of making, the correct decision in key moments. And the NFL, that gets you benched, if not replaced at the very, very, very extreme. But, Cam Ward, great arm talent. There's a video going around of him practicing with Shedeur, and like you can see the difference in ball velocity. Like no one was arguing ever that Cam Ward had a worse arm or an equal arm to Shedeur Sanders, but I do want to mention the fact that his footwork as well as his placement were noticeably worse than Shedeur Sanders. So, there are pluses and minuses to both of the quarterbacks. I do think that Cam Ward's not a number 3 overall player, but for an organization like the Giants that is in self-preservation mode, it makes a lot of sense. Patriots go Mason Graham at pick 4. It's a deep defensive interior class. I wouldn't do it. I would look at Tetairoa McMillan here primarily, and, that would be probably my guy, or Will Johnson. I don't know if Mason Graham moves the needle for me the same way that those other 2 do, but it's not a bad pick by any stretch of the imagination. Vrabel being able to get a very talented defensive interior that has a good pedigree is not going to be a bad move. Oh, hello. This is a live reaction. Jaguars go Tyler Warren at pick 5. Just going to be honest, Liam Cohen's coming from having a tight end by the name of, wow, I literally have on my fantasy team. How did I just blank? Cade Otton. He's going from Cade Otton and having success there to Jacksonville. When you have someone who is literally built, maybe not weight-wise, but pretty much playstyle-wise, similar to Mike Evans, what you can use him as in terms of the role of the offense, and you select Tyler Warren when Cade Otton was a primary tight end there for the Buccaneers, that doesn't add up. That really doesn't at all. And you do have weapons there at tight end that you could continue to grow, develop, and, increase their roles if that is what you want to do with tight end. This is one of the few teams I don't really want to target a tight end for. And so this is a big head scratcher. I appreciate the balls to do it, but I don't really understand the logic behind it because I don't think Liam Cohen's the type of guy to value tight end as highly. He's more so like similar to the Dolphins and using someone who's a little bit lower end like Jonnu Smith and maximizing him. Same thing with Cade Otton. So I can definitely see them passing on tight end this entire draft, even in the good ones. Raiders go Ashton Jeanty over Shedeur Sanders. Pete Carroll gets his version of Marshawn Lynch. So I think outside of the Shedeur option, they did just bring in Chip Kelly, which I think Chip would work really well with Shedeur Sanders. I think that would be actually, if he could use him like Will Howard, or if you really are dead set on the fact that you want Will Howard in round 3, Ashton Jeanty would be a fine option here. I would want to trade back, but it is what it is. Jets go Shedeur Sanders at 7. Not a bad pick if Aaron Rodgers decides to hang up the cleats and you need a QB. If he slips here, honestly, high floor quarterback. He's been used to being in the limelight, so the pressure that New York brings to you is not something that I think would phase Shedeur. But if you're sitting there, it's a unique but interesting pick and something that could happen if it does fall that way. Jalen Walker goes to the Panthers at 8. I think that's a little bit disrespectful to say he's a pure edge, but at the same time, he graded higher as a linebacker to me. He graded as a solid edge, like a top 32 player at edge. But it really was like when I ended up grading him as a linebacker, he graded out as my number 12 player in the class. So I think Jalen Walker is a really good player at 8. It wouldn't be a bad pick. I would just start being like, would I rather let the Saints get Tetairoa McMillan? Like, I think the Panthers could absolutely get another weapon. And, you could pretty much get a double whammy here by being able to get Tetairoa and stealing him from the Saints. That's where I would be like, I don't really see the logic there for them. Saints getting T-Mac is incredible, so I'm happy with that one. I definitely think getting a big X is going to be super duper key for the Saints going forward. You got the Bears going Will Campbell. They're at pick number 10. Perfectly reasonable. He's a good offensive lineman. You're going to kick him to guard, but if you want to develop him as a tackle, I think that's going to be perfectly fine. I don't really trust this 4-position starter. I really want him on the left side of the offensive line. You can't just guarantee me that Will Campbell can kick to right guard or right tackle and be perfectly fine without having an extensive background in that aspect, or at least us seeing him in it. But I think for the time being, if you trust Braxton Jones, getting Will Campbell is an heir apparent, not the worst thing on planet Earth. San Francisco 49ers go Armand Membu. I've seen this one before as well. I think DJ did it. Armand's a really good player. He ended up getting a stomach bug, so he wasn't able to compete in the Senior Bowl. So that kind of sucks. But at the same time, Armand is a fantastic offensive lineman. Do not think he's worth the 11th pick, but he's still a very, very good player for a my guy coming into the year. Booker goes at 12 to the Cowboys. I love Tyler Booker. It's a dark horse position, but, because Zach Martin could be bye-bye. But at the same time, Brock Hoffman, I don't know if, with Schottenheimer there, does he really believe that he needs to replace him, especially at pick 12, right? Now, I will say this. The guard positions looked at as undervalued, but you look at their price per year, it doesn't reflect remotely the gap that is perceived between the value of a guard versus a tackle in the NFL, which I do think is actually a mistake on people paying the guards that rate. But I digress. We got the Miami Dolphins going Kelvin Banks here at 13. Greer will never do it. It's a dream, but it is a far-fetched one. Even though, it is what it is. I don't love Kelvin Banks' foot speed. That's just something for me, man. I'm a big foot speed guy. But the Dolphins getting offensive line would be great if Greer had the balls to be able to pull that off. At 14, we have the Colts going Nicky Manwari. Nick's going to blow up the combine. It's very realistic that he could go in this range. I would just say it's a good safety class. I'd go with the top end corners instead. Falcons go Shamar Stewart at 15. It's possible he ended up really lighting it up at the Senior Bowl, showed even more explosiveness than he had before, and showed a lot more applied athleticism rather than just being an athlete, which I really appreciate for Shamar. He has raised up noticeably since my Edge video, which Again, we're going to be doing full updates and everything and doing one final round of the bout. And, we're going to have probably 30, if not 40 edge rushers on there for you guys to be able to check out. Then we got the Cardinals going Mykel Williams there at pick number 16. Mykel is a fantastic edge rusher. I mean, I think that he's going to be actually a lot better in the NFL than in college. And I don't like saying that for really anybody. But the thing is, as Mykel got healthier and healthier, he got better and better. And by the end of the year, I really thought that he was a first round talent. And even though I don't think the Cardinals should necessarily be looking at Mykel Williams over James Pierce, I do like the idea of them going after someone who has a freak athleticism, who has positional versatility, and who has incredible upside there for Gannon. You got the Bengals going to Donovan Azurewaku at 17. There was no reason for him to leave the Senior Bowl early. I'm just going to be honest. He did not have the Senior Bowl that I think maybe he thought he did, but definitely not worth the 17th pick. And I love Donovan Azurewaku. I saw him in person. He's a very, very good player. But for the Bengals, I would necessarily be focused more so on acquiring top-end talent like Ben Morrison and bringing him back with his defensive coordinator there in Cincinnati. I think that was one of the main reasons why Ben Morrison ended up declaring. I wonder if he ended up talking to his DC and basically finding out that the floor of where he'll go is 17 because his DC believes in him that much. Otherwise, I don't really see much logic in him coming out. But Azurewaku is a bit early for me, especially with the quantity of edges in this class. Seahawks going John Campbell would be pretty damn fun. I want to see, linebacker dependent system. I guess they're versatile playmaker toolbox skills, but I mean, I really wish that there was a little bit more that we could see to tell if Eric's actually watched Jahad Campbell. Because I'm going to be real, anybody who's talking about Jahad Campbell needs to talk about his edge rushing presence. His background is literally the #1 edge rusher in his high school class. Okay. This guy has been built to play the edge. He just played linebacker because of the amount of edges there at Alabama. He's going to be a really, really good tweener, and I love him for a team like the Buccaneers. But, using him as a pure linebacker, that's going to be a little bit of a limitation of his capabilities, and that's something I'm not a huge fan of. Buccaneers going Matt Golden here at 19. Matt Golden's a great receiver. He is. He was my number 14 receiver coming into the year out of Houston, which is insane. And that doesn't even include dudes who ended up returning to school. But Matt Golden's a fantastic weapon. I don't really know if the Buccaneers should be going that route at 19. I'd prefer, I think there's receivers that have some applicable talent that rivals Matt Golden's in terms of value that you can do in round 2 or 3. But I don't really know if the edge value at that point will be able to match the potential role that you're trying to fill. So I would prefer to go after an edge, bottom line. Then we have the Broncos going Colston Loveland here at 20. It makes sense going after a tight end for a team that, was hoping to get more out of Greg Dulcich and then ended up saying bye-bye. So definitely going to add another weapon there and give Bo Nix a really reliable option. Steelers somehow snag Will Johnson. Let's not even get into the fact that, he is a lock top 10 pick. Maybe he's a lock top 15. I think it's bullshit that he slipped this far. It is what it is. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. If I'm able to have Braden Swinson up high, people are allowed to have Will Johnson low. Okay. But at the same time, I also think it is a disservice to see Will Johnson slip unless there's a legitimate massive injury red flag. The speed questions here, this dude takes it to the house. He has multiple pick sixes. If you are genuinely not an athletic enough corner, I'm just going to be so real. You are not going to be taking it to the house, even in college. There are great athletes in college. So I do think that maybe the speed questions are whether he's going to be 4.55 rather than 4.45. But hell, are you going to say that, we're going to pass on Kamari Lassiter because of his speed? A very smart team in the Houston Texans said, fuck that. We watched the tape and we think his applied athleticism is incredible. And all of a sudden they ended up getting a really, really high-end corner there in the second round. And so if teams do this and the Steelers get him, I'm going to be absolutely through the roof. But I think they'll be making a massive mistake, and Will Johnson's going to be a superstar. And, people are going to be eating crow, so to speak. Chargers going Caleb Johnson at 22. Just never fell in love with Caleb Johnson the way I wanted to. He's a very, very, very good back. But I do think that, people are more enamored by the fact that he's the only thing that worked on Iowa. And granted, people knew that, and he still ended up producing. But I do think that there is a noticeable top 2. There's a clear top 2 with Hampton as well as Genty. And, Johnson, I don't think is in that 3 mark. But it is what it is. People, again, like, this is the common consensus idea. I just don't think that running back Caleb Johnson that high would be a very good selection over other positions of need. Josh Simmons goes to the Packers at 23. I don't really think that's going to be the bright move. I mean, they literally have both their starting tackles on day 3. Like, Tom as well as Walker both were sniped on day 3, and that's usually where they're able to get really good talent. I doubt they go back to the well and go after Josh Simmons in the first round. I'd prefer for them to potentially look at that corner route. Ben Morrison is available. I don't know. I seriously don't know why Edholm is going to be against the corners in this class. It really makes no freaking sense to me, but it is what it is. I think it's a bad move, but even though I love Josh Simmons, I don't think the Packers should be doing that. The Vikings go Derek Harmon. A lot of defensive interiors in this class, dude. Go after those corners. You're losing 3 of them. You need to go after a guard or after a corner at this point. And this was made after the Senior Bowl. Like, not the full game, but, where people actually knew what happened in the practices, unless Eric didn't even, like, pay attention to the practices. Like, that's where I would start having some concerns, where it's like, not seeing a lot of the big risers, but it is what it is. I don't know what the hell this reinvented thing is. Well, we're talking about it at least here with Gray Zabel at 25 going to the Texans. I think it would have been a fine move actually for the Vikings as well if you wanted to go interior, but Texans need an interior offensive line. Gray Zabel is going to do it. And I mean, it's saying it slowed at the show at the Senior Bowl. I'm very surprised that some of these players who, opted out, didn't play, are going a little bit earlier than the guys who actually really showed out the Senior Bowl. Rams go Donovan Jackson at 26. If you want to develop him as that left tackle, I think that's going to be a bright move. Really good player nonetheless, and showed a ton of development for half a year. Ravens going Jonas Salvania. This makes no sense. Like, this better be as a guard. At either guard or tackle. I'm sorry. Like, if you actually watched the Senior Bowl, and I watched every single offensive line rep, Jonas Salvania was fucking ass at every position except guard. He did a really good job at guard. So to talk about him stepping at either guard or tackle, he is nowhere close to being able to play in the NFL as a tackle, in my opinion, at the moment. He is a pure guard, and even as a guard, he still is learning so much. The Ravens are a team that takes BPA, not projects, and so I'm going to be heavily against this one, big time, especially for the guys who are still on the board. Dolphins going Mike Green at 28, measured a little bit short on the arms, but he is a really, really good edge rusher, and would be excited to see him continue going in the first round, if not even higher than this. Commanders going James Pierce Jr. You guys know what I think of James Pierce. That's why I include my board on my list. The Commanders would be getting an absolute steal. So, again, I'm not a huge fan of this mock draft. I think there's a lot of stuff that doesn't add up remotely close, but it is what it is. Bills then go Kenneth Grant. Sometimes you just can't pass up on the talent. I think it's perfectly reasonable. You got the Eagles then going Luther Burden at 31. I mean, if I'm just going to be real, the offense throws less than 3,000 yards in the year. Why are you spending a first-round pick on it? You have so much money invested in an offense that's throwing for 3,000 yards a year. Luther Burden's not an elite blocker by any stretch of the imagination either, so it won't help out the run game. This makes no sense. I'm just going to be so real. I don't give a shit if it has a Debo-like skill set. I'm just going to be completely transparent here. I think this is a really bad pick. With the quantity of positions that you could have went with, wide receiver, especially since you have Jahan Dotson on a multi-year contract still, it just does not add up to me. So, bad pick for the Eagles, in my opinion. Like, I love Luther Burden. I love going after wide receiver, but I do think you have to, I just don't understand why we're just neglecting the talent that they do have on the team rather than addressing with really good value some positions where they're actually going to be probably lacking. And speaking of a player that could potentially go to Philly, but I think that Walter Nolan would have been the best one to replace Milton Williams if I'm just going to be, criticizing the pick without providing insight. Like, that's what I would have went at 31. But the Chiefs go Zaire Thomas. That is how you say it. I actually got it from one of his Florida State teammates there in Josh Farmer. Actually, technically his brother, but it's beside the point. That's what the Senior Bowl gets for you. Got to take a picture with Azarie too. He cut his hair, but Zaire is a fantastic player. You guys know how much I love him to death. He had some early struggles on. This is just it makes me question whether this guy was actually understanding what was going on at the Senior Bowl. He didn't create a little buzz on day one. He actually brought up questions. People thought he was getting cooked, including myself. So I really don't understand. Day 2 and day 3, he performed better. I know that he had an interception, which was nice, but Azarie, I talked with an anonymous source because he asked me not to keep him named, but someone close to Azareye'h Thomas, we ended up having a really, really good conversation about like why he looked like he was essentially running in place while trying to get out of his breaks, leading to a lot of the separation that caused him to get cooked. And it was due to his pad level. Like, it wasn't that his feet are not like he's not strong enough in the lower body. He is a very strong player. It's not that he's not fluid. He is fluid, but it's the fact that he keeps his pad level too high to where he cannot shift the direction and build up the momentum at the rate that he should, which allows receivers to get separation on him. So I do think that he is an excellent pick here for the Chiefs. I think it's a very workable issue, but I think it's something that needs to be addressed nonetheless. And if not, could be a reason why Azareye'h could end up failing in the NFL. So I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. See you on the far side. Peace.